Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential. These are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. My name is Dr. Amber, and today my topic of presentation is a systematic review according to Prisma guidelines under supervision of Professor Dr. Saira Afzal. Learning outlines. In this presentation, I would be commenting on the systematic review according to the Prisma guidelines under the title of under the headings of title, introduction, methods, and Prisma flow sheet. By the end of the presentation, the participants will be able to describe the different sections of systematic review according to Prisma guidelines. Now, I would like to explain each and every point according to Prisma guidelines. The first section and topic in the Prisma checklist is the title. So the title
Dr. Amber,
of
first you have to present your own systematic review.
Ma'am, this is my systematic review.
No, this is not your systematic review. It is Prisma guideline and it is the checklist. We all have this checklist. First, you present your own systematic review.
Okay. The topic of my systematic review is ethical issues among healthcare workers using electronic medical records, a systematic review. The rationale of this, actually the objective of this systematic review is to identify the ethical issues faced by the healthcare workers, which includes the doctors, the nurses, and other healthcare professionals like dentists. And they commonly face several ethical issues that I would be addressing in my systematic review. The rationale of this systematic review is that worldwide, the integration of electronic medical records is increasing in hospitals. The digitalization of the records has increased, which poses several ethical issues among healthcare workers, like the privacy and privacy issues, the autonomy, beneficence, fidelity, and several others. Hence, in this systematic review, I would be identifying the ethical issues that are commonly present, that are commonly faced by the healthcare workers. And for the next is the method section. The method section, there must be an robust eligibility criteria that includes inclusion and exclusion criteria. So for I would be searching papers from the last 5 years. It would include the observational studies, the non-randomized studies, the original studies, also the abstracts and the gray literature would be reviewed. And for the exclusion criteria, the commentaries, the perspectives, editorials, and the randomized control trials or interventional studies on the topic of ethical issues would be excluded. After inclusion and exclusion criteria has been adopted, the screening of the articles would be done. The screening of the articles, the two databases would be used: Google Scholar and PubMed. The total number of articles identified on the databases would be screened, and then the total number of articles that are relevant to the topic would be separated from the rest of the papers. And after that, I would apply the method to identify the quality of each of the paper. For this systematic review, the method that would be used will be observations and the the results obtained from criteria, the results from the self-reported results would be included study. And after the exclusion and inclusion of the articles, and after checking the quality of each of the studies, identified the results and the method section, sorry, the results and the conclusion section would the results in the form of no quantitative data would be included in my systematic review. And the comment on the common ethical issues would be done in the conclusion section. And the search strategy used for completing the Prisma flow sheet, that starts with first with the identification process. The keywords that would be I used for searching the relevant papers were ethical issues, healthcare workers, and healthcare workers, ethical issues, and electronic medical records slash digital medical records. For the mesh keywords used for PubMed, I used ethical issues and electronic medical records confidentiality, ethical issues, and professional healthcare workers. And I am at the first step of my Prisma flow sheet, where I have identified total articles on Google Scholar were 16,600, out of which 400 plus articles were relevant, and 140 plus articles have been added to my Google library. On PubMed, there were total 1,040 articles relevant to the topic of ethical issues and electronic medical records, out of which the relevant were 400, and out of them I have added around because in my Google library. Now I would like to come to my Prisma checklist. So the title, for the title, the requirement of the Prisma checklist was to identify the type of the study. Hence, I have my title on ethical issues among healthcare workers use review. So the title is clearly showing that it's a systematic review. And the population I've defined is healthcare workers. And I have kept PICO criteria in my mind, although it is for the interventional and the randomized controlled trial studies, but I have kept in mind to identify the population. The outcome is the ethical issues, and I have kept electronic medical records at the point of intervention, although it's not a proper intervention. The second point in the Prisma sheet is the abstract. Checklist can add the by the name Prisma checklist of abstracts, and after the main Prisma checklist is completed, then we can fill the relevant data under the headings of title, objective, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, results, and conclusion. That comes under the heading of abstracts. Then comes the rationale. The rationale of the systematic review identifies the gap. So the central aim of this qualitative research, I've already told, is to understand how healthcare providers integrate the electronic medical records in their workflow, and whether specific ethical questions arise while sharing medical information both with practitioner and patients. So the objective, the requirement of the Prisma checklist was to clearly write in a single sentence the purpose of the study in a clear objective statement. So the objective is to identify the ethical issues among healthcare workers using electronic medical records. In methods, eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria includes inclusion criteria, And also the process of screening. So in inclusion criteria, the papers published in last 5 years, this is the filter. Original article studies and observational studies are included. Also, the systematic reviews I missed previously. Systematic reviews will also be included in my inclusion criteria. So all published grey literature, which includes web-based guidelines, would be included, and abstracts on ethics and medical information will also be reviewed. Exclusion criteria, commentaries, editorials, perspectives, randomized control trials, interventional studies, and case studies. And papers in language other than English will not be included. The titles and abstracts of articles retrieved from the search will be screened for eligibility, that is the inclusion and the exclusion criteria. And after that, full text review of each selected article is done to identify those meeting the predefined criteria of inclusion. And the included articles will be reporting the ethical issues like privacy, confidentiality, beneficence, autonomy, and other ethical issues related to digitalization of healthcare workers. Next is the comes in the method section is the information they require. Databases are used, how the databases were searched. So the databases used were PubMed and Google Scholar. The keywords used, the simple keywords used were ethical issues, healthcare providers, digital health records, and electronic medical records. And the mesh keywords, ethical issues and confidentiality, ethical electronic medical records and health, autonomy, digital records, and healthcare workers. Another requirement in the search strategy section of the Prisma guidance is to identify the filter, any filters you will searching on the relevant data. So the last 5 years, I also take filters sort by relevance and all including citing filters used. Then the selection process. The selection process here, researcher, they to identify method use the studies are fulfilling the criteria. So for this, the articles, the inclusion criteria, the will be addressing the healthcare workers only. Studies with objective results and the self-reported results will not be selected. Those articles will not be selected from which the self-report. In the data collection process, is the how to there are several methods of collecting the data. So the Prisma checklist demands which methods of data collection are used. Either you're using interviews, focus group discussions, or you're using or any other collection. I am only the terms that